Human accepted an alien slave as payment, only to learn she was a princess. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character. Rustspire Station always hummed like a dying beast, metal ribs groaning as the gravity wells shifted under its unstable generators. Calen Ward stepped through the airlock with his coat pulled tight, the recycled air carrying the sting of burnt ozone and spilled coolant. Neon signs flickered overhead, casting violent pink shards across the wet floor as vendors shouted in half a dozen dialects. He ignored them. His ship needed a new regulator coil, or it wasn't flying anywhere, and he only had enough credits to pay for one if the dealer wasn't in a cheating mood. Of course, on Rustspire, cheating was practically a birthright. Calen reached the trade stall, a dented metal counter surrounded by force-field cages humming with low voltage. Behind the glass, a fat-bellied Threxian smuggler wiped his snout with a grease-stained cloth. "You're late, human," the alien hissed. I adjusted price accordingly. Calen felt his jaw tighten. "We agreed on 800 credits for the stabilizer. Don't play with me." Threxian eyes blinked sideways. "Then perhaps, alternative payment." He pressed a button. A cage hissed open to reveal a figure kneeling inside, wrists bound by magnetic cuffs, a dull metal collar locked around her throat. A woman, tall, lithe, skin a muted lavender beneath layers of dust. Her long silver hair fell around her shoulders in tangled waves. She lifted her head just slightly, but her eyes stayed closed under the blindfold wrapped around them. The smuggler grinned, all jagged teeth and malice. "Premium stock. Young. Healthy. Obedient. After enough electricity. Take her instead of the last 200 credits. A fair exchange." Calen's stomach twisted. "I don't buy people." "Then consider it a gift." The smuggler tapped the collar again, sending a crackle of blue sparks crawling across the girl's neck. She flinched, teeth clenched, a soft cry slipping out before she tried to swallow it. "Back." Calen moved without thinking. His hand shot across the counter, gripping the smuggler's wrist. "Turn it off." "Human, you overestimate." Calen squeezed harder until bones shifted. The smuggler howled and slapped the control panel with his free hand. The collar's sparks died out, leaving the girl panting weakly against the cage wall. Calen released the alien with a scowl. "Open it." "So you do take her." The smuggler sneered, rubbing his wrist. "I knew your type. Open it." The cage hissed open. Calen stepped inside, crouching before the trembling girl. She smelled faintly of cold metal and antiseptic, like she'd been kept in a lab too long. "Easy," he murmured, unlatching the cuffs. "I'm getting you out of here." Her voice came thin and hoarse. Why help me? You don't know what I am." "Don't need to." He lifted the blindfold just enough to check her pupils. Striking silver irises flashed before she squeezed them shut again from the sudden light. "You're not cargo. That's enough." He swung her arm over his shoulder, guiding her out of the cage. The smuggler shoved a crate toward him. "Your stabilizer coil." "Deal complete." Calen ignored him and kept walking, the girl leaning against him as though she hadn't stood in days. Sirens wailed somewhere deeper in the station, security forces responding to something, maybe even this. Calen didn't care. Every instinct screamed that taking her was the only right choice left in a place built entirely on wrong ones. As he reached the docking bay, the girl's grip tightened weakly on his sleeve. "If you knew the truth," she whispered, barely audible, "you would have run." Calen keyed open the hatch to his ship. "Good thing I've never been good at that." And as the door sealed behind them, he had no idea just how literal her warning really was. Calen guided the trembling lavender-skinned girl into the narrow main corridor of his ship, the Peregrine, as the door sealed behind them with a metallic thud. The hum of the engines vibrated through the floor panels, steady but strained, like a heartbeat running too fast. The girl clung to his sleeve, her fingers cold against the worn fabric of his jacket. Dim emergency lights cast soft amber glows across her silver hair, turning each tangled strand into a drifting ribbon of light. She hesitated, as if the simple act of standing inside a ship felt unfamiliar after days or weeks inside a cage. You can sit, Calen said gently, guiding her toward the co-pilot's seat before heading to the pilot's chair. She lowered herself slowly, her breathing shallow, her eyes still squeezed shut under the blindfold. The collar around her neck flickered with a dying blue spark. Calen leaned toward her. Hold still. He worked at the latch, fingers careful. After a soft metallic click, the collar fell away, hitting the floor with a dull clang. The girl exhaled, the first breath that sounded like it belonged to her. Thank you, she whispered. Her voice carried both exhaustion and something like disbelief. He activated the takeoff sequence. Rustspire Station's traffic control lights blinked red through the cockpit glass as the bay doors opened. The Peregrine lifted, engines rumbling with strain, then shot out into the dark starfield with a burst of blue flame. Only when the station was a shrinking silhouette behind them did Calen glance back at the girl. Her hands were gripping the seat edges, knuckles pale. What is your name? He asked. A long moment passed before she answered. Lirae. The name fit her somehow, elegant but restrained, like someone taught to hide parts of herself. Calen nodded. I am Calen Ward. You are safe here. Her silver eyes blinked open for the first time, adjusting to the dim cockpit lighting. She studied him carefully, her pupils narrowing faintly in the low glow. Safe, she repeated softly, as if testing the word. No one says that where I came from. Calen turned his attention forward, checking the long-range scanners. Quiet space. For now, you are free to rest, he said. There is water and food packs in the galley. The medical kit is under the console. Lirae did not move. Instead, she watched him, her expression shifting from fear to curiosity. You fought for me, she said quietly. You did not even know me. You were hurt, Calen answered simply. That was enough. She tilted her head slightly, her glowing eyes reflecting the soft cockpit lights. Most would not risk anything for a stranger, especially not for someone wearing a slave collar. Calen let out a slow breath. I do not care what they put on you. They had no right. For a moment, silence filled the space between them, warm and heavy. Then a faint beeping broke the quiet. The ship's scanner flashed an orange warning. Calen frowned and tapped the display. That is not good. Lirae straightened. What is it? A tracking signal, Calen muttered. They tagged you. That means someone is already looking. Her breath hitched. You should have left me there. You did not have to take this risk. Calen shook his head. I am not in the business of leaving people behind. The scanner pinged again. Multiple signatures appeared, faint but approaching. Lirae gripped the seat. They are coming. Let them try, Calen said, gripping the controls, his voice steady but low. They will not take you again. And as the Peregrine angled into dark space, running lights dimmed, engine heat masked, and the stars smeared into long streaks, Lirae watched the human who had chosen to defy an entire unknown force for her. Not with bravado, not with heroism, but with something far rarer in the galaxy. Humanity. The Peregrine drifted through a silent stretch of space, its hull vibrating with a low hum as Calen pushed the engines harder than they were ever designed to go. The orange warning indicator still blinked on the console, though faintly now, like a heartbeat fading under distance. Lirae sat beside him, her silver eyes fixed on the scanner display, as if staring long enough could will the pursuing signals away. Calen steadied his breathing, fingers tapping controls with practiced precision. The signal is weakening, Lirae whispered, her voice barely above the soft thrum of the ship. For now, Calen replied. He switched to manual navigation, guiding the Peregrine toward a debris field that resembled a shattered ring of ancient satellites and broken starship hulls. Jagged metal pieces spun in lazy arcs, glinting in the distant starlight. We can hide in there, he said. A tracker will have a harder time getting a clean read. Lirae hesitated, her hands tightening in her lap. Are you sure this is safe? Calen gave a small, tired grin. Not even a little. The Peregrine slipped into the debris field, weaving between fragments of forgotten machines. The metal rubble scraped faintly along the ship's shielding, making Lirae flinch with every sound. Calen guided them deeper, finally settling behind the skeletal remains of an old freighter hull. Once they were hidden, he powered down the engines to minimum life support. The sudden quiet inside the ship felt heavier than the vacuum outside. Lirae exhaled slowly. How long until they pass? Hard to say. Could be minutes. Could be hours. Calen reached under the console and pulled out a thermal blanket, tossing it to her. "You are freezing." Lirae wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, the soft material glowing faintly against her lavender skin. Her voice trembled slightly. "I did not expect kindness. Not from a human. Not from anyone." Calen leaned back in his chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "You sound like someone who has not seen much of it." Lirae looked down. "I have seen cruelty dressed as duty, discipline disguised as justice, and obedience demanded as loyalty." She paused. "My value was in what I could offer, not in who I was." Calen watched her carefully, sensing the weight behind her words. "Where were they taking you?" She swallowed. "To be sold." Again, she lifted her wrist, still marked by the metal cuffs. "There are buyers who want control, who want rare species, who want someone with—" She stopped herself. Calen frowned. "With what?" Lirae shook her head. "It does not matter. They only saw a prize." Calen leaned forward. "I see a person." She looked up sharply, her glowing eyes meeting his. The moment hung in the dim cockpit, pulsing with quiet intensity. Before either could speak again, the scanner emitted a soft pulse. A faint signature flickered across the display, then vanished. Lirae stiffened. "They are close." Calen reached for the controls, but kept the ship powered low. "If I move too soon, the heat signature will expose us." "Then what do we do?" He glanced at her. "We wait." The minutes stretched, the silence interrupted only by the soft crackle of broken satellites drifting nearby. Lirae pulled the blanket tighter. "Calen, why risk all of this for me? You could lose your ship. You could lose your life." Calen shrugged, but his eyes stayed forward. "I have lost a lot before. But saving someone, that still feels worth something." Lirae blinked, as though the concept was foreign. "No one has ever said something like that to me." "Then you have been surrounded by the wrong people," Calen replied. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to argue, but instead she whispered, "You are unlike any human I have met." Calen chuckled softly. "Most people would say that is a good thing." The scanner chirped. Again, softer this time. The pursuing signals faded into static. Calen leaned forward, listening. "They overshot us. They lost the trail." Lirae exhaled, her entire body relaxing into the co-pilot's chair. "We are safe. For now," he said. "But we need to get far away from here before they realize their mistake." She nodded slowly, then whispered, "Calen, thank you." He looked over at her, her silver eyes reflecting the faint cockpit lights, filled with something he had not seen in her before. Trust. And as the Peregrine powered back up, its engines humming to life, Calen could not shake the feeling that protecting her was only the beginning of something far more dangerous than any ship hunting them in the dark. The Peregrine glided out of the debris field with its engines running low and quiet, like a predator moving through tall grass. Calen kept one hand on the controls while monitoring the scanner for any hint of returning signals. The danger had passed for the moment, but the tension lingered like static in the air. Lirae sat beside him, wrapped in the thermal blanket, her silver eyes following every movement of his hands. She no longer looked terrified, only wary, like someone rediscovering the shape of her own breath. When the scanners remained clear for several minutes, Calen finally exhaled and eased the ship back into normal cruising speed. "We need a place to land and make repairs," he said. "The Peregrine will not survive another chase like that." Lirae nodded slowly. "Is there somewhere safe?" "Safe is a relative term out here," Calen replied, tapping a sequence on the console. A star map flickered to life, projecting constellations and scattered waypoints across the dim cockpit. He pointed to a red-marked lunar outpost. "There is an abandoned mining station on an unregistered moon. No patrols, no settlements, nothing but dust and broken drills. If we are lucky, we can hide there long enough to figure out why they want you so badly." Lirae's voice softened. "You already know why, Calen. People like me attract greed. Power attracts chains." He glanced at her. "Power." She froze, catching her own slip, then looked away. "I meant rarity." Calen did not press. The weight behind her words was too heavy to be just another story of smuggling. Instead, he focused on the moon ahead, a cracked sphere floating in a quiet corner of space. As they approached the surface, dust clouds swirled under the descent thrusters, and the landing struts touched down with a low metallic groan. The hangar was nothing more than a hollowed rock cavity, with rusted mining rigs leaning like frozen skeletons. Calen shut off the engines, grabbed a portable lantern, and nodded to Lirae. Come on. We are going to check the perimeter. She rose carefully, still unsteady on her feet. Calen offered an arm, and she accepted it without hesitation this time. They stepped out of the ship into the cold, thin air of the abandoned outpost. The lantern cast a warm circle of light that illuminated clouds of dust floating through the air. Broken rail tracks crisscrossed the cavern floor, metal carts overturned as if the miners had fled in panic. This place feels haunted, Lirae whispered. Calen gave a low hum. Places like this hold memories, not ghosts. Lirae walked to a collapsed terminal, brushing her fingers along its cracked screen. Do humans always risk so much for strangers? No, Calen answered. Most do not risk anything at all. She turned toward him, her silver eyes bright in the lantern's glow. Then why do you? Calen paused, the question lingering in the dusty air. Because the galaxy is already cruel enough without me adding to it. She studied him, her expression softening. I was taught that humans are reckless, violent, driven by impulse rather than wisdom. Calen smirked. That is not entirely false. She surprised him with a faint smile. You are different. I am just doing the right thing, Calen said. That does not make me special. Lirae shook her head gently. It does. You treat me like a person, not a possession, not a rarity, not a prize. Her voice cracked, betraying the emotion she tried to bury. Calen stepped closer. Lirae, whatever they wanted you for, they do not get to have you anymore. A sudden distant echo cut through the cavern, a metallic thud that traveled along the rails. Lirae stiffened. What was that? Calen raised the lantern and scanned the darkness. Wind, maybe, or settling metal. But even he did not entirely believe it. He motioned toward the ship. Inside. Now. They moved quickly, boots crunching on dust. As the Peregrine's hatch closed behind them, the scanners flickered with a faint blip. Not strong, not clear, but enough to make Calen's stomach tighten. Lirae looked at him, fear creeping back into her eyes. They found us again, did they not? Calen stared at the scanner, jaw clenched. If they have, then this is no ordinary bounty. Someone is hunting you with a persistence I have never seen before. Lirae's voice trembled. I told you, Calen. If you knew the truth about me, you would understand why. He turned to her slowly. Then tell me. She hesitated, her breath shaking, her silver eyes luminous with fear and something deeper. I cannot. Not yet. But you deserve to know. And soon you will. Her voice faltered as the scanner pinged once more, louder this time. They were not alone on the moon anymore. The scanner continued its steady, ominous beeping, each pulse echoing through the metal walls of the Peregrine like a countdown that neither Calen nor Lirae could ignore. The faint signature wavered on the display, flickering in and out as if whatever was approaching moved with deliberate precision. Calen tightened the straps of his utility belt and checked the sidearm holstered at his hip, the metallic click breaking the silence. Lirae watched him with tense, rigid posture, her silver eyes glinting with dread under the dim cabin lights. Calen, if they find us, they will not hesitate. They will destroy the ship. They will destroy you. He shook his head. I have handled worse. Not like this, she whispered. The fear in her voice clung to the small space between them. Calen powered down all non-essential systems, plunging the cabin into deeper shadow. Only the soft blue glow of the scanner lit their faces. He moved toward the rear compartment and motioned for her to follow. We need to stay quiet and keep the signatures low. The outpost is full of metal and old machinery that might scatter their readings enough to buy us time. Lirae hesitated in the doorway, hands gripping the blanket around her. Calen, they are not hunters. They are not smugglers. She swallowed hard. They are soldiers. Calen stilled. Whose soldiers? She shook her head. I cannot say yet. Her voice trembled with something heavier than fear, a burden she carried alone. But I promise. I will tell you soon. Calen studied her for a long moment, seeing the truth in her trembling breath and the weight behind her silence. He nodded once. Then stick. Close. She followed him into the storage bay where crates and old mechanical parts lay scattered. Calen began stacking metal panels around a corner near the hull, creating a crude shield to muffle their heat signatures. Sit here, he said, patting the space behind the panels. Lirae sank into the shadows, pulling the blanket tighter as her breath fogged faintly in the cool air. Calen crouched beside her, the lantern off, relying only on the thin sliver of scanner light bleeding through the doorway. A distant tremor rattled the ground outside, traveling through the cavern floor like the footstep of something enormous. Lirae tensed. They are here. No visuals yet, Calen murmured. The scanner only detects movement. Another tremor. Closer. The mining rails shook faintly. Dust drifted from the cavern ceiling. Lirae pressed her palms over her ears. They are scanning the area. I can feel it. Calen frowned. Feel it. She flinched, realizing she had said too much. It is complicated. Calen set a hand lightly on her shoulder. Lirae, I do not care what you are or where you come from. You are safe with me. Her eyes softened, shimmering with gratitude and something like wonder. You say that so easily. Because it is true. The scanner pinged sharply, louder than before. A silhouette appeared on the display, then split into 3, then 5. Calen swore under his breath. They deployed ground scouts. Drones, maybe. He slowly drew his sidearm. If they find the ship, they will not leave quietly. Lirae grabbed his wrist, her fingers cold but firm. Calen, listen to me. If they catch us, they will not harm me. But they will kill you on sight. Calen shrugged gently out of her grip. Then I better make sure they do not catch us. She shook her head in despair. You do not understand who they serve. Calen met her gaze in the dark. Then help me understand. Lirae closed her eyes tightly, as if fighting a secret that clawed to escape. But before she could speak, a thundering crash erupted outside the hangar, metal shrieking as something vast and heavy forced its way inside. The entire cavern shook. Calen placed a steadying hand on Lirae's back. Stay down. The sound of mechanical legs scraped closer, followed by a pulsing hum that vibrated the air. A searchlight swept across the cavern entrance, bright enough to pierce the cracks between the stacked panels. Lirae clutched Calen's arm, her whisper trembling. Calen, if that is what I think it is, then they have sent an imperial retrieval unit. Calen stiffened. Imperial? Lirae nodded, tears gathering in her silver lashes. They only send those for one person. Calen swallowed hard. Who? Lirae met his eyes, her voice breaking. Me. And before Calen could speak, the searchlight locked directly onto the peregrine. The searchlight blazed against the hull of the peregrine, flooding the cavern with harsh white light that cut through the dust like a blade. The metal walls vibrated under the force of the engines from the massive retrieval unit outside, each mechanical step shaking loose fragments of rock and rust from the ceiling. Calen pulled Lirae closer into the shadows, shielding her with his body as the rumble grew louder. The machine outside let out a deep, resonant hum, the kind only military-grade scanners produced. It swept the cavern again, and this time the light paused on the exact spot where the peregrine sat half-hidden behind the broken mining rigs. Calen whispered, They have found us. Lirae trembled beside him, her hands fisting the edges of the blanket. Calen, you have to run. If they take me, they will not look twice at you. But if they find you protecting me, they will kill you without hesitation. Calen steadied her shoulders. I am not leaving you. She shook her head desperately. You do not understand. That is an Imperial Titan unit. Only the Royal Guard uses them. They were sent to retrieve me. If you get in the way, they will destroy you and level everything in their path. Then they should have brought something bigger, Calen muttered. Because I am not handing you over to anyone. Before Lirae could argue, the Titan unit released a piercing electronic shriek. A cluster of smaller surveillance drones shot forward from its chassis, scattering like a swarm of metallic insects. Their red targeting lenses glowed ominously as they zipped across the cavern. Calen grabbed Lirae's wrist. Move. They slipped deeper behind the stacked metal panels just as a drone passed overhead with a high-pitched whir. Its scanning beam swept across the floor inches from their boots. Lirae clutched Calen's sleeve, whispering, They know I am here. They always know. I should have told you sooner. My people placed a trace in. My genetic signature. If I go missing, they activate it. Calen frowned in the darkness. Your people? Who exactly are your people, Lirae? She inhaled shakily. I am from the Vel'Shan line, the imperial bloodline of the Lyrian Dominion. Calen stared at her, stunned into momentary silence. You are royalty? She nodded, tears shimmering in her luminous eyes. Yes, and a faction inside my own court sought to remove me. They arranged my capture, sold me off-world, and spread a false story that I fled. And now the loyalists have finally found me. Calen's heartbeat thudded in his ears. So that Titan outside is not here to kill you. No, she whispered. It is here to recover me. But you are an unauthorized variable. They will eliminate you to protect imperial secrecy. The drone closest to them suddenly lit up, its targeting beam locking onto a faint heat signature from the Peregrine's engine coils. The Titan unit let out a low electronic roar and began tearing through the mining rigs with mechanical claws, clearing its path to the ship. Metal screeched and snapped like bones. Dust filled the air. Lirae grabbed Calen's hand tightly. You need to run. Please. I cannot let you die because of me. Calen squeezed her hand back. I told you before. I am not leaving you. The Titan unit hurled a mining cart aside and aimed a weaponized scanning cannon directly at the Peregrine. The air grew colder, charged with energy. Calen knew what would happen next. One blast would destroy the ship and everything in it. He moved quickly, pulling Lirae through the thin gap in the metal cover and toward the far end of the cavern. We have to get that monster away from the ship, he said. If the Peregrine is gone, we are stuck here and they have us trapped. Lirae stumbled as another tremor shook the ground. Calen, you cannot fight a Titan with a sidearm. I do not need to destroy it, he said. I just need to distract it long enough for them to think they are chasing you while you get to the ship. She stared at him, horrified. You are risking your life for a princess you barely know. Calen turned to her, eyes steady. I am risking my life for someone who deserved help long before I ever arrived. At that moment, a drone spotted them. Its alarm blared, red lights flaring. Lirae gasped. Calen pulled her close, voice low and fierce. Stay behind me. The Titan unit pivoted toward them with a thunderous metallic shriek. Its massive searchlight locked onto Lirae, illuminating her trembling form as though crowning her in cold, merciless radiance. And the machine advanced, recognizing royalty, but not recognizing the human who refused to let her face it alone. The Titan unit's massive frame loomed over the cavern floor, its searchlight burning through the dust-filled air and locking onto Lirae with unerring precision. The mechanical giant moved with hydraulic snarls and heavy metal steps that sent vibrations through the cracked earth, each one a warning that time was running out. Calen pushed Lirae behind a fallen mining rig just as a drone swooped toward them with a shrill alarm, its red lens glaring like a mechanical eye. Calen fired his sidearm once, the beam striking the drone's sensor and sending it spiraling into the dirt with a burst of sparks. The Titan immediately reacted, its weapon ports opening like the petals of a steel flower. Lirae clutched Calen's arm, her voice cracking. Calen, you need to stop. You cannot defeat an Imperial Titan. You will die. Calen shook his head, breathing hard. I do not need to defeat it. I just need to buy us time. Time for what? To get you to the Peregrine. A tremor ripped through the cavern as the Titan fired a concussive blast, obliterating an entire section of abandoned mining rails. The shockwave slammed into Calen and Lirae, knocking them to their knees. Dust rained from above like falling ash. Calen groaned, pushing himself up, then helped Lirae to her feet. Her silver eyes shimmered with fear and guilt. Calen, please, she whispered, gripping his hand. I cannot let you die for me. I never asked for this. You did not have to ask. Calen wiped blood from his lip and steadied her. People like the ones chasing you, they think power decides worth. They think titles matter more than lives. I do not. Lirae's breath trembled, her voice no louder than the hum of the Titan's engines. You are the first person to ever say that to me. Another blast erupted, this one closer, sending debris flying. A jagged metal beam speared into the ground inches from them. Calen pulled Lirae into a sprint across the cavern, dodging fallen equipment and shattered stone. The Titan tracked them relentlessly, its scanners sweeping the terrain with cold, mathematical precision. They reached a cluster of old cargo crates near the cavern wall. Calen pressed Lirae behind it, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Listen, he said urgently. If I can draw it away, you head for the ship. The Peregrine can outrun anything that Titan throws at us once we break atmosphere. Lirae grabbed his jacket, shaking her head fiercely. No, you do not get to decide that alone. You do not get to throw yourself in front of an Imperial weapon to save me. Calen brushed a strand of her silver hair from her face. I am not saving a princess. I am saving you. Her eyes widened, shimmering with raw emotion. But before she could speak, the Titan unleashed a deafening roar. A surge of energy rippled outward as it activated a capture grid, crackling purple arcs forming a dome that sealed off most of the cavern's exit routes. The temperature in the air shifted, a static charge building until Lirae gasped. "Calen, that grid is designed to immobilize targets. If it touches you, your nervous system will shut down. You will not survive it." "Which means," Calen said, gripping her shoulders, "I need to get its attention before the grid closes completely." Lirae's eyes filled with tears. "Do not do this. Please." Calen pressed his forehead lightly to hers, steadying her trembling breaths. "I will be back. I promise." She shook her head violently. "Do not make promises you cannot keep." But Calen had already pulled away. With one final look at the terrified princess crouched behind the crates, he burst from cover and sprinted straight into the open, firing at the Titan's sensors. The machine reacted instantly, turning its full attention toward him. Its searchlight refocused. Its cannons charged. Its massive frame pivoted with a mechanical growl that echoed through the cavern. Lirae reached out helplessly, tears streaking down her lavender cheeks. "Calen!" The Titan unleashed a thunderous blast. The cavern lit up with blinding white light, and Calen disappeared into the explosion. The blast tore through the cavern in a blinding flash that swallowed Calen's silhouette, the shockwave slamming into the walls with a force that sent fractured stone raining from above. Lirae cried out as the explosion's heat rippled across the ground, her body thrown backward against the cargo crates. For a heartbeat, the entire moon seemed to hold its breath, the only sound the ringing echo of the Titan unit's cannons cooling. "Calen," she whispered, her voice breaking as dust clouded the air. "Calen, please stand up." The Titan's massive frame adjusted, hydraulic limbs shifting as it analyzed the blast area with clinical detachment. Its scanners swept through the dust, searching for a life signature. Lirae crawled forward on shaking limbs, ignoring the sting of debris cutting her knees. Her eyes scanned the smoke for any sign of movement. The Titan whirred as it prepared a secondary blast, its chest plates opening with sharp mechanical clicks. But then, through the settling haze, a faint figure emerged. Calen stumbled out from behind a collapsed section of mining scaffolding, coughing hard, his jacket scorched, and one sleeve nearly torn off. He had thrown himself behind the structure at the last possible second, and although his legs shook, he was alive. Lirae let out a sob of relief, covering her mouth with trembling hands. Calen straightened, wincing as he braced against a steel beam. "Still here," he muttered. "Try harder." The Titan locked onto him immediately, its targeting lasers converging. Calen took one unsteady breath and ran again, drawing the machine away from the Peregrine's position. Lirae rose, her heart pounding as she watched him dodge another blast that vaporized the ground inches behind him. "Calen, stop," she whispered desperately. "Please, stop." But Calen did not. He fired again, hitting one of the Titan's lower joints. It barely damaged the armor, but it was enough to redirect the machine's attention fully onto him, its cannons humming with rising power. Lirae felt something inside her snap. She stood tall, the blanket falling away from her shoulders. Her silver eyes glowed brighter, luminous with a fierce, regal intensity she had tried so long to hide. She stepped out from behind the crates. The Titan immediately detected her movement and paused, its weapons lowering fractionally. Calen froze mid-stride. "Lirae, no. Get back." But she did not move. Instead, she lifted her chin, and for the first time since Calen had met her, her voice carried the authority of someone born to command entire star systems. "Unit Thalos 7, she called out, her voice echoing like a bell across metal and stone. "Stand down." The Titan hesitated. Calen stared at her, stunned by the sudden shift in her tone. Lirae stepped forward, hands trembling but her voice unwavering. "I am Lirae Vel'Shan, first heiress of the Lyrian Dominion. You are operating under the royal protocol of retrieval, but the conditions have changed. Cease your attack immediately." The Titan's scanners flickered as it processed her identity. Lirae's genetic signature pulsed from her skin in soft ultraviolet patterns, confirming what she claimed. The giant machine lowered its cannons inch by inch. Calen stared at her, breathing hard. You can command it?" Lirae's eyes softened with guilt. Only members of the Vel'Shan bloodline can override the imperial units. She stepped toward Calen, her hands trembling. I should have told you sooner. I was afraid that if you knew who I truly was, you would treat me like the others did. Calen shook his head slowly. I never cared about your title. Tears slipped down Lirae's cheeks, shimmering under the fading searchlights. I know. That is why I was so afraid of losing you. The Titan suddenly powered up again, making both of them flinch. But this time its lights shifted from red to blue, signaling allegiance. It lowered itself until its massive armored chassis touched the ground. Kneeling before Lirae in a gesture Calen had never imagined a machine could be programmed to mimic. Lirae swallowed hard. They are not here to capture me anymore, she whispered. They are here to retrieve their princess. Calen exhaled, shaken but still steady. And what happens to me? Lirae reached for his hand, fingers curling around his with surprising strength. Whatever happens next, she whispered, I will not let them take me away from you. For the first time, she was not the one trembling. He was. The Titan unit remained kneeling in the dust and fractured stone, its glowing blue indicators casting long shadows across the cavern floor. The air felt still now, as if the entire moon was waiting for Lirae's next breath. She stood before the machine with her shoulders squared, the regal authority in her posture unmistakable even through the exhaustion trembling in her limbs. Calen watched her in silence, his chest rising and falling with slow, strained breaths. He had seen her frightened. He had seen her lost. But this was the first time he saw the weight of who she truly was. Princess Lirae Vel'Shan, heir to an empire that sent war machines after her. Lirae squeezed his hand as she stepped closer. Her fingers were cold but steady. Calen, she said softly, you must listen carefully. The Titan will call in the fleet next. They will arrive within minutes. Calen nodded once, his gaze shifting to the towering machine. And I am guessing they will not appreciate an armed human standing beside their princess. Lirae shook her head. No, they will see you as a threat. A variable. At best, they will restrain you. At worst, her voice cracked. Calen placed his hand over hers, grounding her. I am not leaving you. The Titan's lights pulsed quickly, signaling incoming transmission. A deep vibration rippled through the cavern as a portal of shimmering blue light bloomed open in the far wall, cutting through rock and dust like a tear in reality. From the portal stepped soldiers clad in iridescent armor, their movements precise, their helms reflecting the pale glow of the cavern lights. They formed two lines, kneeling as one, heads bowed toward Lirae. A taller figure emerged behind them, wearing armor adorned with royal insignias. His voice echoed through the cavern. Your Highness, we have searched for you across 7 systems. The Dominion awaits your safe return. Lirae stiffened, her fingers tightening on Calen's hand. Commander Haleth, she said, her voice steady but cold. I was kidnapped by traitors within our own court, sold into slavery, nearly killed, and I survived only because of him. She stepped aside so the commander could see Calen fully. The soldiers shifted uneasily. The commander's gaze hardened. A human. Lirae stepped forward with a quiet fury burning in her eyes. A man who protected me when my own people failed, who fought an imperial titan with nothing but courage, who risked everything without knowing my name or title. Calen swallowed, feeling dozens of armored visors locked on him. But Lirae moved between him and the soldiers, a living shield. If not for him, I would be dead. Or worse. The commander straightened, his jaw tightening. Your Highness, it is improper for a princess to speak of a human with such attachment. Lirae's eyes blazed, the silver glow intensifying. Do not mistake my gratitude for impropriety. This man has shown more honor than anyone in this chamber. Calen opened his mouth, but Lirae squeezed his hand. Let me speak. The commander hesitated. Does the human make a claim upon you? Lirae turned to Calen, her breath trembling as she whispered. Say nothing. Whatever you say, they will use it against you. Calen held her gaze, then shook his head gently. I make no claim. Lirae's eyes softened, shimmering. He continued, voice steady. She is free. That is all I fought for. Something shifted in the air. The soldiers murmured among themselves. Even the Titan's lights dimmed slightly, as if absorbing the moment. Lirae stepped closer to Calen, her voice breaking in a way none of her soldiers had ever heard. You gave me back my freedom. But I am not leaving without saying this. She reached up, touching his cheek with trembling fingers. You treated me like a person when the galaxy treated me like a commodity. You saw me before you ever saw my crown. Calen's breath caught, his voice low. You deserved that from the beginning. Tears slipped down her lavender cheeks. Calen Ward, she whispered. If the universe were fair, I would choose to stay with you. The commander bowed deeply. Your Highness, the council awaits. Lirae wiped her tears but did not let go of Calen's hand. And they will have me. But they will not erase what he has done. She turned to Calen one last time, her voice quiet but full of a fierce, trembling certainty. I promise you this is not the end. She stepped back, her hand slipping from his grasp as the soldiers surrounded her. The Titan rose, towering above them as the portal reopened. Calen stood alone in the dust and fading light, watching her disappear into the blue glow. And as the portal sealed shut, the cavern returning to silence, only a single echo remained. She was a princess. He was just a human. And somehow, that had been enough.